Emma. Welcome to Meet the Boss Junior. Today I'm speaking with you, Emma Hossack, CEO of Medical Software Industry Association. First question, you might know I love cars. What's your favorite car?
I think probably my favorite car, if I had to buy one and drive it, would be an E-Type Jag. But I also love the old Carmen Gears and the 1960s Mercedes. And probably my other favorite one was the old-fashioned Rolls-Royce, probably kind of 1950s again.
When you were a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I wanted to be a policeman or a detective. And so because that wasn't seen as a fantastic career for a woman by my family, who were kind of like more into being doctors and lawyers and stuff, I became a lawyer on the basis that that's still kind of involved with the law. So I did become a lawyer and worked as a lawyer, but then I changed along the line. But I think that what I wanted to be when I was 10 was probably, I thought at that stage I'd love to be a doctor, and then I kind of watched a lot of television and movies and thought then being a policeman would be much more cool, and then ended up, of course, being neither of those two and being a lawyer, but very happy with it.
Cool. So I want to hear all about your work, but first tell me your story. How did you become a CEO?
Okay, well, because I was a lawyer, I was working obviously in a law firm, as you do, and I then fell in love with the chairman, like the CEO of the whole firm, and moved to another state and had to start doing different work. So I began to work for companies that were in trouble, like they were losing money, that kind of thing. And when I was doing that work, I absolutely loved doing it. I loved helping companies stay alive. So I'd go into companies which were, you know, earning a lot of money but spending too much and about to be wiped out. So I'd go into those companies and build them back and fix them. And while I was doing that, I wasn't even thinking about becoming a CEO or anything like that. But I loved doing it, and I loved saving jobs, and I loved building a big business and making it kind of fun for everyone. And inadvertently, someone asked me one day, what are you? And I said, I'm the company solicitor. And they said, no, you're not. You're the CEO. And I said, no, I'm not. And they said, yes, you are. You pay the wages, you set the plan, you basically run everything that needs to be run, and you've saved the company, you're the CEO. So I kind of I thought, oh, okay, well, whatever. But I got called the CEO, but it wasn't like I tried to be the CEO. It was just.
Tell me about your company. What is your product and who are your customers?
Okay, so the current company, it's a really interesting one because there's actually 160 companies that are kind of my clients, if you like. And so in a company, you have your board of directors, and we've got a board of directors in my company. They're elected by all that 160 companies. And I guess that it's a slightly different from an ordinary business, because each one of those 160 companies has obviously got their own business underneath it. So my job is to make sure that all of those, if you like, customers of mine, but members of this big company, a lot of them compete with each other. So it'd be like, you know, having Porsche and Mercedes, and then having your kind of like electric cars, and everyone like being in under the same company. So of course they've all got their own things that they want to do, and they want to sometimes do a lot better than the other guy and all of that. So my job really is to find the common ground where all those companies have got the same problem, because if you have the same problem, even if you all hate each other or are competing really hard against each other, you will generally work well with each other to achieve that. The other customers I have, which are really unusual, are the government. So you see the ministers, you know, like Minister for Health and Minister for Aged Care. Those guys are also my companies, my customers, and I need to work really hard for them as well, because what my company does is it provides the software to make health work. And so it's really important that the government knows that we can do that, and that we do that properly, and that we don't let the government think they need to do that job that we do really well. So I have to make sure that I educate them and visit them and set the record straight for them as often and as well as I can, because that makes life a lot better for Australia, but also for all my 160 customers.
So what do you love most about your job?
I love the fact that probably, unlike being a lawyer or working in other commercial firms, in my job, I have the opportunity to actually change a really important part of Australian life, and that is helping fix the health system. And I actually think that every day I do something which has a purpose. So when you go to work, you'll find some days you go to work and you know, no matter how much you love your job, a lot of jobs have got a lot of stuff which can be pretty boring, and you wonder sometimes, my God, why did I train to be an engineer, doctor, lawyer, software developer, and I have to do all this boring stuff, administration, for example, boring stuff. But with my job, at least at the end of every day, I know that I've made a little bit of a difference in the way that health will be delivered in Australia. And I honestly believe that.
What's the hardest thing about your job?
The hardest thing, I think, about any job, but my job included, it's the hardest thing, but can be the most wonderful thing. So it's kind of good and bad. But the hardest thing is definitely dealing with a whole bunch of different kind of personalities. And you find in life, most people, if you're, you know, in a particular stream, like if you go into the car industry, you know, you'll all have a lot of commonality. You'll all kind of think a lot about cars, like talking about them, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that's the same. But there's also going to be people there who are not there for the right reason, or who you don't think are good people, or who just don't like you. And it's always very difficult to deal with those people in a way that is kind and still respectful, and that's really hard sometimes, because
What's one piece of advice for me as I think about starting my own company?
I think the best advice for anyone is to make sure that find what you love doing and work really hard at it. I think, what was it? Very famous man, obviously, Einstein. He said, in life, there are several things you must always remember. If you're lucky enough to find someone you love, hang on to them. Whatever you do, don't stop working. Never stop working, because it gives your life purpose. And thirdly, I never look down, always look up at the stars. And I think that's really good advice. And it's basically saying, make sure that your life is purposeful, and not just going, I've got to have that title, I've got to have that money, but doing something that you really love. And
that's all we have time for today. Thank you so much for coming on this show and sharing your story. Best luck with your future. Bye.
Bye, Liam. It's been lovely talking with you.
Such a good time.